Hello! We are going to be making today a very famous Peruvian custard called Crema Volteada. Roughly, it translates to a custard. This custard is very similar to what most people would call a flan. However, this uses a lot of eggs and milk to give it its custardness. For this recipe, you want to use anywhere between 5 or even 8 eggs to make it very creamy. For this recipe in particular, you want to use 5 eggs, including the whites and yolks. The next thing you want to use is evaporated milk. Now, evaporated milk can consist anywhere between 12 ounces for this recipe, and you want to use all of it. This will help with the mixing process later. The next thing you want to use is condensed milk. Now, this condensed milk in particular is 14 ounces, and you really want to try to use Nestle's La Lechera. It will give it really that authentic taste to it, though any condensed milk will work that you can lay your hands on, and you want to use the whole thing. I'm using a spoon just to get every little ounce out of it, because it will really help with the sweetness of it and make it more dense. The next thing you want to add is your vanilla extract. This in particular uses 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and that will give it its vanilla flavor of it. Now you want to mix this whole thing, and mixing should take anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes, or until the mixture itself becomes very foamy and you see lots of bubbles. The next thing you want to add is orange peels. This will help with the taste of it and not having orange chunks within it, but still help with that orange flavor of it. Now we begin the process of the caramelization. For this recipe, we're going to be using a cup of brown sugar, but white or brown will do. Though with brown sugar, it will give it a more richer and dense caramel, as with the white, it will give it a little bit more of a light taste. So to each their own. However, for most crema volteadas, it's very common to see white sugar. Now, we're going to add just a little bit of water so it'll help with the caramelization a little bit, speed up the process, and you really want to keep an eye on your pan. Caramel can burn very easily, and it could almost ruin the whole dessert if you're not really keeping an eye on it. I'd recommend using a non-stick pan or a non-stainless steel. This will just help with the cleaning process later on. And you want to try to get your caramel to a runny texture, so you can be able to pour it into your pan. After a minute or two, your caramel should look roughly around this, still smooth, and be able to see a dark color texture. It's okay if there's bubbles within it. It might have air pockets when you're starting to pour, but that's totally fine. And you just want to keep moving it so it doesn't burn, or just make sure it stays liquid. You don't want to have the heat on. By this point, I would recommend trying to turn off the heat. Next, you want to grab your pan. You don't need to butter it. The caramel will work on its own as a mechanism to get your flan out. So you want to pour it all over your pan. Just try to get every drop you can. It's totally fine if you can't. And you want to start, moving that caramel around. Try to get all the edges. Remember, this is kind of like your butter in the sense of you're trying to not let it stick to your pan, and so it can get out later once you're finished with it all. Now, I will say your pan will get very hot because of the caramel, so I would recommend using some gloves. I personally, during the stage, was burning up. Once you let your oranges bathe a little bit in the batter, it's time to take them all out. I would just go in with a fork and just try to get as much as you can out. Once you get them all out, mix a little bit with the mixture. Make sure you're getting that foam a little bit. Once you're all set to go, make sure you get all the little pieces. I forgot one right there. Once you're ready to go, get your mixture and you pour it straight into the pan. Make sure you try to get it as much evenly as possible, and try to get every droplet. Remember, the more mixture you have, the more you get to enjoy later. Once you poured your mixture in, you want to transfer your pan into a bath. Now, a bath is simply just saying getting a bigger pan and putting water within it. Now, this water was just room temperature water, so you don't have to boil it, and it's not freezing cold water either. And you want to put it into your oven. The oven is set at 350 degrees. I would recommend setting your oven just beforehand, just so it's ready to go once you're already set. But there's also no need to rush because this process does take a while. After an hour and a half, your flan should be ready. What you're looking for is a nice gold texture on top that you're able to touch with little to no liquid whatsoever. And you let that sit and cool for a good 30 to an hour. You want to be able to take that out and be able to hold its shape afterwards. And then after an hour or two, as you can tell, it got really late, but your flan is ready and it should look something like this. Now keep in mind, mine looks a lot more shorter and I messed up the cutting really bad on this one. I promise I'm a good cutter. I just was really nervous for this first time, but it tasted really good and I would recommend anyone do it. I know it looks very intimidating, but really it's very simple, and when it comes down to the mechanics of it, it's really delicious. So I hope you enjoyed.